Hello friends and welcome to another itemization video. Today we're going to be talking about the Drums of Endurance. This is kind of a funny item because they have gone in and out of the meta. It's usually a more popular item on core heroes, but it has been a support item every now and then. Very recently it was, and in fact it was a busted item. Teams were getting like 2 or 3 drums per game. Both teams. So that's kind of how busted that was, and that was the most anyone has ever seen drums, as far as I remember. It is nerfed since then, so it's not nearly as popular right now. But I think it's gone in and out of the meta enough that it's worth covering, and also someone requested it, so we should cover it. So with that, let's take a look at these stats, and I would say these stats kind of are part of the reason drums are good, because if you look at the total price right now, it is $14.75. Really not that expensive. And if you look at the items that make up drums, they're all pretty cheap. It's got a very good buildup, and that's part of why it's been strong. You buy all these cheap items, you don't have to worry too much about like hoarding gold and not dying. You just like, oh, I happen to farm a creep wave, boom, that's one of my components. Oh, we happen to win a fight, boom, another component. The most expensive part is the final recipe, 600 gold, but even that, like 600, not that much. And the stats it give you are just generally good. 20 move speed. For comparison, lots of people love Windlace, and one of the tier 1 items, Faded Brooch. Many people think that one's kind of like busted, and a big part of that is because it gives you some move speed, 20 now. And so the fact that drums, yeah, you have to pay a bit more than like the Faded Brooch, but like 20 move speed is all around solid. 4 attributes, not that high. It used to be 6, and that's kind of why it was a little busted. So right now, it's just like in this middle ground, but like 4 is not bad. And then 1.5 mana regen. Almost every hero needs at least a little bit of mana regen, so this is nice. Now, it used to have some aura passives. It does not anymore. So now, the active is the aura. So you get 45 attack speed and 13% move speed for 6 seconds, and drums has 6 charges. I used to think that made drums bad when I was new to the game, because I was like, you get drums, you use it, and then you can't use it anymore. That sucks. Unless you can buy the recipe again, and that'll refresh the charges. So 600 to get 6 new charges. Many people don't do that. And so I thought it was bad. But then, as I got better at the game, I realized how much, because, when you start the game, you're like, why not just go for the late game items? Especially if you're new to MOBAs. But the whole part about itemizing well in Dota is getting these smaller items to help you get to that late game faster, and it's faster than just going straight to the late game ones. And Drums of Endurance falls under that, where they're a very good early game item, and these actives that it gives right now, attack speed and move speed, are very good to be active in the game because it helps your team kill people and then kill towers and to catch up on them, because in the beginning of the game, very few people have like blinks and mobility spells. So just being able to run faster and run at your opponent is very powerful, and then you beat them to death really quickly. So all of that summarized, this, first of all, is really only good with right-clicking heroes. It's not so good with like a Zeus, right? Because he doesn't right-click. But if you do have a couple right-clicking teammates, then this is a drum, so it's a very tempo item. That should be easy for you guys to remember. Boom, 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 it's a drum. And it's an aggressive item. You're not getting this to sit back and farm. You are getting this because you're going to do stuff, you're going to play a fast tempo, and you're going to kick the enemy team around. For that reason, it is often a first item or no item. You don't really go back for drums. So if you end up needing a Glimmer Cape, a Force Staff, whatever else, and you get those first, at least on a support, it's very rare to ever go back to Drums of Endurance. Because if you look at these stats, I said they're nice because they're cheap and you need them in the early game. But later on in the game, you don't really need these stats so much. I mean, they're still nice, but like to buy them at that point is not so good. And if you look at the active, like plus 45 attack speed, that's really strong in the beginning of the game. For comparison, just as a thought exercise, some heroes are balanced around the fact that most people have 100 attack speed to start, and some people have slightly more or slightly less. So like Shadow Shaman and Tiny, they have 90. Dark Willow, she has 115. They're balanced around these very slight differences in attack speed, and this is 45 attack speed. So at the start of the game, this is a lot. But then later on in the game, when your core has like an Echo Saber, a Mask of Madness, like Moon Shards, all that stuff, 45 attack speed is like good, but not that great. And then we kind of already mentioned that later on in the game, blinks, mobility spells, all that stuff, they're a lot more common. And now this move speed is not so amazing. So that's why it's really meant for the early game. Something else I want to note that it is only going to affect controlled units. So even though it has a very similar description to Beastmaster's passive affects all allied units, including lane creeps. That's the big one. This will not affect the creeps in your lane. It will only affect any unit that one of the players on your team can control, and that does not include wards. Wards, if you look at the wiki, wards are actually used for more things than you probably realize, but the ones that you'll probably think of are Shadow Shaman wards and Venom wards. Those are not affected by Drums of Endurance. So if you've got like a Shadow Shaman on your team and you're thinking about playing fast, don't think that drums are going to help them. I mean, it still might be a good item depending on who else is on your team, but not for the wards. And then here's this little table to show you what 13% move speed represents. So even at the very start of the game, when you only have like 280 move speed on some of the slower heroes, it's still 36 total move speed, and that is quite a lot. But then even as you get further on with boots, this becomes like an extra pair of boots on a hero, and that is quite a lot. Now, 487 move speed, that is quote-unquote the cap, because beyond that, 550 is actually the cap on move speed. So if a hero on your team has more than 487 move speed and they're affected by drums, they're just going to go to 550 and be capped out on that front. In the early game, very few heroes ever reach that level of attack move speed, but just a fun thing to think about. So we're going to move on to the heroes now in a second, but I guess what I want to summarize about drums are that we are getting them to put ourselves in a position to win in the early game. Around 10 to 20 minutes, I would say. You either want to be in a position to win or be very close to winning. And if that sounds to you like, what? That's crazy. That's way too short. Drums are probably not for your rank, to be honest. As a support, the lower rank you are, the longer your games tend to go. And so then I think Drums of Endurance lose a lot of value to supports. For me, okay, right now I have not been buying drums a lot because I don't think they're that amazing on supports. But when they were more popular, I would get them when I think we can end the game, or like we're breaking down their T3s really quickly, or like we have all their towers by the end of 20 minutes. And that was when drums were good because I'm getting a ton of value out of this item and the 6 charges I get. Every charge I get was winning a fight and getting a tower. That's like 1k from winning the fight and getting the tower for our team. So like a 600 gold charge, or I'm sorry, 600 recipe for 6 charges. And every time you use that charge, you're getting like a team fight, a tower. That's really powerful. And by the way, I should mention, as a support, if you're getting this item, it's because you're going to play with at least 2 other heroes, if not 4 or 5 of them, because you are grouping early and you are taking towers and forcing fights and trying to pressure the enemy team before they're ready. If your team is not doing that, if they're farming, if they're split up, if they're like a pick-off lineup, then drums are not so good. This is like, all right, everyone, huddle together, march straight down. We're going. Doot, 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 doot. Yeah, let's take a look at some of the heroes. So to be honest, I feel a little awkward with this list just because it's not very popular right now. So I feel weird putting a list like this together. So definitely take this one as just a rule of thumb. This is not exhaustive. But for example, let's say you're playing one of these heroes. On Bounty Hunter, his ultimate used to give move speed to everyone on your team chasing the heroes. So it would be really good to get drums because then you would ult someone and use drums and everyone would just be like zoo, zipping around, make it really fast to go pick off these kills at the start. Now it only affects you, the move speed, and drums does not have a move speed aura unless you activate them. So it's lost a lot of synergy, But if either of those changes, I could still see it working. And in fact, Bounty Hunter still sometimes gets drums, if he's a core usually. And it just helps him to run around faster. And because he's looking for kills and looking to do things. And in the early game, that usually involves having a lot of teammates around you. So you track, you use these drums, and getting kills kind of pays for itself, or kind of pays for the drum charges, really. Oh, something I forgot to mention earlier. Generally, do not buy the recipe again to recharge your drums, but sometimes I will if I think the game is about to end. Like, we can win in this next push, and like 600 gold, like, what can you really buy? I'm not finishing another core item in that time. So like getting more charges is like the best thing I can do. Or like we're about to lose and I can't spend 600 gold on anything. So it's like, all right, I guess let's boost the team a little bit. That's kind of the only reason I ever rebuy drum charges. Other than that, I think it's better to just use your drum charges wisely and then move on. All right, back to the heroes. Spirit Breaker, a very similar philosophy to Bounty Hunter, where first off, he just benefits off of move speed a lot, but he also wants to start a lot of fights for your team, charge in and create havoc there, and he wants many team members there to get a kill because he doesn't actually bring that much damage usually. He just brings crowd control. He wants the other teammates to bring damage and then to turn that into an objective. And so the drums help his team get more damage by giving him attack speed, or they help him convert a kill into a tower. Crystal Maiden was a hero that represents supports that just don't need other items. So like sometimes you need like a 4-staff or a glimmer. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a hero like Oracle or Dazzle, where even if they don't need a 4-staff or a glimmer, they have a very specific job, which is to save allies. And to save allies, they need to make sure they have the cast range, the mobility, whatever, the survivability to do their job. So even if they don't need a specific item based on the enemy team, they need items for their own job. Heroes like Crystal Maiden don't quite need other items so much because their job is to just kind of like cast out some spells, get a good ult. Items help with that, but I hope it makes sense. Where like she doesn't need them; she can do her job without any items. And technically, Oracle and Dazzle can as well. But if they can't save anyone, they're gonna add a lot less to the team than say a Crystal Maiden, who still gets to cast spells and no one's expecting her to save them. More than that, her playstyle is just meant to amplify her team and play kind of early, and so drums made a lot of sense. She benefited from all the early stats, the move speed, she's a slow hero, and then the general aura just to help her team out more. So it was really good on her and other heroes that fit that kind of idea, and that kind of shifts with the patches. So she's just the representative here right now. Nature's Prophet goes back to this idea. He should, in fact, our Discord was just talking about it. He should be very active in the early game. And because he has summons, all his summons benefit from the extra attack speed to convert that into towers. Same with Chen, also just a very active hero. He's the kind of hero where it's like, all right, we're all grouping together and we're going. Nature's Prophet like teleports to the fights when those happen. That's why drums are good on him. Chen kind of dictates that the team should be grouping in this lane, and so drums will get a lot of value if you're trying to play that style. Chen does not actually get drums that often right now. He's been going for like the mechs and the Holy Lock. Well, Holy Locket, maybe not. Mechs a lot more, but it can be something he can do. Now, these are people who they're on your team. So if one of these guys are on my team and I'm playing like a Crystal Maiden or another support, and I don't quite need an item to counter like a Clockwork on the enemy team, and I don't quite need any items for myself, I may prioritize the drums and say, all right, let's just try to win early. So someone like Beastmaster, he already has his own passive, but then having another one on top of it, really strong. He's a hero that pushes really fast. Why not push even faster? He's a hero that can take all the towers really quickly if you strengthen him up. And he likes to build, Helm of the Dominators, Necronomicons. So he's building those. He can't build his own drums a lot of the times. If you come in with the drums and like, I'm just going to follow Beastmaster anyways, so, like, let's just power up and run down lanes together, then it works out really well. Dragon Knight, he's a hero that's got a lot of survivability. He doesn't need help with that. He doesn't need help with damage. He pretty much has it. The issue is that he doesn't have very good attack speed. So if you provide the attack speed for him, that really helps him out in team fights, and he's a hero that can push quickly with his ultimate. Lycan, again, he doesn't need help with damage, doesn't really need help with survivability. He just likes to attack a lot because he already has the damage, but his attack speed is not amazing at the start of the game. Also a hero that has a lot of summons. So getting the drums, he doesn't really need the move speed, but he's a hero that can play very fast, and that's what the theme is, really. Lone Druid, many people think of him as a late game hero, but I actually think he's much better in the early game when the bear is way stronger, and then the bear actually gets pretty weak later on. It's pretty easy to kill the bear, and it becomes a liability to him because it has such a long cooldown. So Lone Druid's actually a hero that I think really wants to win in the early game, early to mid game, and so the drums just follow that idea. Like, give the bear more attack speed, and the bear will carry you. Meepo, lots of clones to benefit from attack speed, also going for that early to mid game win. And Chen, we kind of talked about him. If he's going for the mech, then, if I don't need anything else, okay, maybe I'll get the drums and help out Chen's heroes. Nature's Prophet, same idea. Maybe he's going for like Medallion, Orchid, stuff like that. Okay, I'll get more attack speed for your treants and for, the whole general team. Now, these are heroes that they can be played fast, but I don't think drums are quite as good. They're like, okay. If I saw these heroes in combination with either a lot of other heroes like in this lineup or up here, then like I'm leaning towards drums, but these are a little more high priority to me. But like someone like Abaddon, Bristleback, they just play very early and they actually benefit off of attack speed. So it's nice. Huskar, the reason he's down here, even though he does fit this like I'm just gonna play really fast play style, he actually already has really good attack speed. And so giving him more attack speed doesn't help that much. He kind of just wants to survive longer. So getting survivability items to help him is generally better. And also lockdown so that he can just do damage. He actually does not really have an issue with damage in general. But I mean, he's not going to complain like, oh no, I have more attack speed and move speed. Like, he's never going to say it's a bad thing. But there's usually other items like a medallion that help him a lot more. A medallion so that he can like do Roshan really fast or something like that. Same with Clinks and Drow. Drow used to be, the hero for fast pushes. And that has kind of changed with the hero because she got changed over the years. Now she's been pushed a little more towards the mid to late game. But I think there are some lineups that can still use Drow to play pretty quickly. And when you're in one of those lineups, having drums really helps. Just to take towers faster. A Broodmother, she'll never build drums herself. But I mean, she won't complain if you have drums because it'll affect all her spiders and herself. And so if you want to shred buildings, giving all the spiders attack speed later on is pretty solid. But Broodmother kind of does it all on her own, and she'd rather have like lockdown. And that's why like I think she's down here where it's like, Razor, he's already fast, but make him a little faster and give him some attack speed once he's like stolen a lot of attack speed. Razor's kind of in this weird spot where he has like awkward itemization a bit, and so helping him out with like attack speed while he builds survivability or something can help him. He's also just a hero that can play pretty fast. Same with SF, same with Templar Assassin. If you think about her early items, it's like Deso Blink. She doesn't really build attack speed, so give her attack speed. SF, he's usually a drum builder. That's another thing I should say. At this point, I don't think multiple drums are necessary on a team. So if you see one of your cores building drums, you probably don't need to build it yourself. Maybe that'll change. Maybe they'll get really broken again and everyone will want drums. But until that happens, just one drum per team and check that your cores are not building it. Ursa, he just wants attack speed. He's got the damage. He just needs to attack faster. So his issue is getting kited in the early game. But you don't quite need like in the early game, like sometimes, even though I just kind of made it weird and said like earlier, like he wants lockdown, stuff like that. In the early game, technically you don't. Like many heroes can just be run down and killed if you're fast enough. And so Ursa is kind of one of those heroes that like, if you just make him fast enough and give him enough attack speed, he will just kill other heroes by running them down because no one else has like 4 staffs or blinks. and all of that to get away yet. Visage, also a hero who like sometimes buys drums. It kind of depends. To be honest, I'm just not sure where Visage falls because it's not very common to see Visage, so I don't have the best feeling on the hero. But he is a hero that, when played well, will play at a very fast tempo, and he often buys like Medallion himself. That's another very good early game item. And so, like, how many other early game items are there to really like push down towers? I mean, some, but like drums is one of them. And so I think of drums when I see Visage. And to be honest, I don't know how true that is because I don't see enough of them. So then Alk. These are some heroes that it's not so good as. So like Alchemist, that might surprise some of you because he goes for this mid-game tempo. But if you think about the hero, his ultimate gives him attack speed and move speed. So he doesn't benefit that much from even more attack speed and move speed. And he's a hero that like Medallion this guy or provide the lockdown for this guy. Help him be more survivable to benefit even further off his ultimate because he's getting crazy regen. So if you give him more armor or give him more magic resist, then that increases his effective HP and his items will help him do the damage over time, especially because Radiance is so common on this hero where he doesn't even have to right click. He just needs to survive in the fights. So usually I think drums are not so good with an alchemist, especially because by the time you get the drums, he's still kind of farming. So I think the timing just doesn't line up quite as much. Kunkka, Ember, Timbersaw. Well, let's just start with Kunkka and Ember. These are heroes that, fun enough, buy drums sometimes, but I would not buy drums for them as a support because I don't think they scale that well with attack speed themselves. I think when they are a core, what they benefit from is the very cheap item that is drums, and these are playmaking heroes that they go to a lane and do something. They go to the side lane where there are two other heroes that can benefit from drum charges, and they want to literally run down heroes and attack, even though these guys don't really scale that well with attack speed. In the early game, it's kind of like, okay. And so they can get drums so fast, benefit from all the stats, make use of the charges, and then sell it and move on. But if I'm playing with Ember, he's my mid and I'm a support, because he's not going to benefit from the attack or move speed as much, and he's not going to benefit from any of the passive stats of drums because I'm the one benefiting from those, I don't think of these heroes for this item. Timber and Underlord, more Timber, kind of a similar reason where at least Timber, he doesn't really scale off attack speed even though he plays quickly, and because the drums will not benefit the creeps, it doesn't really help you push towers that way either, so I don't think it's that great. Underlord sort of does benefit from the attack speed a little bit more, but I just don't think it's necessary. Even though he's a hero that plays fast, I don't think attack speed just for Underlord is good. But if I had like a Drow and a Dragon Knight, and I know we're playing fast in this Underlord, then I might get drums. But I guess the comparison is like, if I had a Beastmaster, I don't even care if my mid or my carry are not fast heroes. I know that with just a Beastmaster offlane, the two supports and the Beastmaster can play very fast, and that gives some value to drums. But in a similar situation where it's like Underlord and two other supports, I'm not getting drums because this guy just doesn't benefit from them enough, whereas he does. But if it's Underlord and some others, then fine. Like, Underlord will benefit. Everyone will benefit from attack speed and move speed. It's just like to what degree. Venomancer, his wards don't get it, so his attack speed himself is not that important because his passive does not stack, and it actually just refreshes the duration, which means hitting faster. Yes, you're getting more damage from like hitting people, but he doesn't actually scale that well with attack speed. He needs to hit people like once every like 15 seconds to apply his passive, and then like he'll switch targets. So giving him a ton of attack speed like isn't that great. Death Prophet, usually another fast tempo hero, does not scale with attack speed. Her fast tempo is based on her spells, and drums don't affect that. Same with Pugna. And so that's why these guys are fast, but they don't need drums from a support. And then Anti-Mage, right? He's here just to represent, like, your lineup is not early game. So if you have an Anti-Mage on your team, you're not really looking to play high speed, fast tempo. And so you don't really need the drums. You're looking to, like, delay the game and defend towers a bit more until Anti-Mage is online. And that's not what drums are for. So that's what he's on this list for. In conclusion, I would honestly say most of the time you don't have to think about drums, especially if you are solo in pubs. In this current meta where drums are not that broken, I don't think you have to think about it. When drums do become broken, sure, you can think about it. Maybe we'll re-release a video at that time. If you play with a party, then you can consider drums, especially if you're going for an early game lineup, because you have more coordination with like teammates and your friends. I think then drums can work, but just know you are going for that play style. Like at least 3 of our heroes are going to be together, and we are looking for kills and towers. And we're not just doing that because like that's good to do. Like it's always good to do that, but you know, when you have like a hero like Spectre, then the reason you are grouping as 3 is to make space for Spectre, not to win the game. So that then you don't need drums. But if the reason you're grouping as 3 is like because you have a Beastmaster, then your job is to kind of win the game in this early stage, then drums are good. But otherwise, I myself have not bought drums in ages. So yeah. Thanks for watching. I hope that was helpful. I know it's a kind of a weird item, and I know I gave kind of conflicting sides, but I think it's because it is a weird item, which crossovers between core purchases and support purchases, and so there is kind of a bit of a nuance to it. But I hope this helped at least a little bit. So goodbye now.